everybody wants the ball with a minute left to go in the game to put the ball in the end zone. And with the fire department, when that bell went off, that's kind of how you felt. They give me the ball, I got to score here, and that was the difference with saving somebody's life.
This is gonna hurt. It's time for the Suffering Podcast. We're born with genetic instincts that are hardwired into our DNA. Without instruction or training, we emerge from the womb and take our first breath. Our eyes open, and the first cries of life begin. From that moment on, everything we do is solely focused on one purpose, and that is to live another day. Under constant bombardment from external forces attempting to end this precious gift of life, we, as a species, have learned to endure. The human race has fought off death for eons. In modern times, staying alive is the easiest it's ever been throughout human history. Comfort breeds complacency, so we place ourselves into situations to sharpen our instinctual tools, acutely aware that the goal is not only to survive, but to thrive. I'm Kevin Donaldson here with Mike Failace, and on this episode of the Suffering Podcast, we sit down with Mike Turner to discuss the suffering of Survivor. Mike's taken toughness to a whole new level on CBS's Survivor. I'm hoping you watched him. Mike, thanks so much for joining us. And we also have the hurricane.
I was going to say, you can't disregard the elephant in the room.
Here we go. Mike,
Why do you say elephant?
Listen, Mike, just go along with it. Let them just
with
talk and vent. And
with two Hobokenese guys in here, we're going to have a tough time talking about this stuff.
Hey, Kev, I brought the Hoboken dictionary.
Very nice.
So when they start talking like Hobokenese,
hold on, let me open
Nothing
it.
over three syllables, right, guys?
All right.
I educated him about comp last.
It just says dis.
No, look.
Oh, I got to turn the page. That.
No, look. It's empty.
Before we get into too much fun, this is going to be a great episode. Let's throw a big shout out to our marquee sponsor. That's Toyota of Hackensack. Go to toyotahackensack.com. Let them find you a car. Cars are getting more and more difficult to find these days. They're experts at it. They can help you out. Mike Turner.
Yes,
so
sir.
We've been going back and forth for quite some time. I'm very proud of you, a New Jersey boy on a top-level show.
Jersey boy,
Hoboken.
Hoboken.
Okay.
Hoboken.
Your enunciation is getting so much better, Mike.
Well,
We're working on it.
Yes, thank you.
Working on it.
Wasn't Frank Sinatra from Hoboken?
Yes.
Yes, he was. Huh?
Yes, he was.
First baseball game.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah.
That's right. First
We got
baseball
a
game.
lot of Hoboken's pretty popular.
On the
It really
waterfront?
It is. On the
there's
waterfront,
much more.
yeah.
On the waterfront, yeah.
I mean,
Oreos.
Frank Sinatra was like the best singer ever.
Oreos are from Hoboken?
Yeah.
Orioles too. That's right.
No kidding.
Seriously.
You're gonna tout that one as your big claim to fame?
Have you had an Oreo?
And me and Mike
about-
from Hoboken.
how about- I know they got wing nuts in Hoboken.
Let's just get on with the show. Please. Get on with the social media question.
Mike, thank you so much for joining us. Each week we take a question from one of our audience, and this question was given to us by this really beautiful young lady named Lexi, and she says, being a first responder, how has that helped you overcome your suffering?
It taught me to persevere. It taught me that against all odds, we can always overcome. So anytime that I think about things are too hard, I think about the things that I went through as a first responder and what I've seen happen to people, and it makes me know that I can go forward harder every day.
Because aside from being on Survivor, you're a retired Hoboken fireman, and our show, we work heavily with first responders. So
See, he was smart. He went into the fire field.
you guys talk to each other,
Yeah.
not about each
Yeah,
other.
not about each
That's
other.
true. Like
exactly.
being a fireman is pretty cool.
Yeah. Mike, what do you think? How's being a first responder help you overcome? Well, okay. Hang, Mike.
No, I agree. No, first, I'm really happy. I respect you a lot for doing what you did, and obviously, I mean, we worked in the same town, and I always, looked up to you.
Thank you.
And it means a lot, So, I mean, I guess being a first responder just teaches you every aspect of life. You can overcome, basically in my life, many obstacles. Whether they were good, whether they were bad. It just,
Is that because you saw so much?
I did, and I was able to relate in so many different ways, not only when I was a police officer, an investigator, but it carried over into my own personal life. I'm able to, balance a lot, Sometimes it got a little overwhelming, but, it basically brought me through A lot of times, a lot of hurricanes. So
Well,
it is a great question.
We're gonna try to stir up the hurricane.
By
today.
yes, a very special person.
Yes, Lexi. And you know
yes.
what? I just want to give a big shout out to Lexi because Lexi gave us these beautiful The Suffering Podcast bracelets, which will be on my wrist for a long time. now.
And she's going to make
wait, I
one
didn't
from
get
a
one.
special one for Mike.
Yeah, what? She doesn't give them to our guests. What the heck?
For the record, 3 out of 4 people have one. Guess who didn't get one?
The guest. The guest. Mike, what do you think? How do you think it's helped you overcome?
Well, you know, I mean, we see people at their deepest and darkest times. I mean, you know, Mike, you as a fireman, you know, people's houses are just burned down, you know, and
They were happy to see you.
They lost everything, you know. They were happy to see you. But it teaches you. I mean, we bring it up all the time. Resiliency. You know, you see the people at their worst time, you know, and sometimes you have to take all that in and think, maybe my life's not that bad.
True.
You know, that's what I think. I think it teaches us that although we come from all different walks of life, that the suffering that we endure is common to everybody.
We all bleed red.
There is nobody in this world that is immune to suffering.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we've seen people at their worst times. And then when we go through our bad times, and we've all had them, you know, we have a little bit extra tools in the toolbox to help us through those.
And you know what it
That's
is
a
too,
good
when you
point.
see those people in their worst times, right? And then you see them again later in life, you have that common bond. You know, like, I mean, I've been on CPR calls before, and then you see that family like in your local ShopRite or something like that, you know, and it's like,
Well, you share blood.
yeah, exactly.
You share blood, you know, and Mike, you can probably attest to this. The guys who you were at war with or war alongside, there's probably a bond there that I can never understand, that Mike can never. There's fucking 3 mics in the room. God
Yeah, we are.
Damn it.
Let me put this on the record. He's bald and he's older than me.
Yeah, but he's wearing a hat. At least he's got some
Yeah.
dignity.
I covered it.
Where's your dignity?
He's half bald too.
Oh, no, just on the top.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Next,
Snotty.
we're gonna ask
You
Aegis.
got to point every single thing out. Like,
But it's important.
Turd chin.
It's important things because it teaches you that resiliency. It teaches you how that you see these people. You're there to help them, and then when you share blood with people, that's a whole different aspect of it.
Yeah.
You know, you've done it in war, where we've done it in our professional lives, and you've done it in your professional life as well. You'll see them down the road, and you're like, "Hey, how's so and so doing? How's this person doing? How are you doing?" And automatically, boom, open up to you. How many times? And this is great. This is Lexi. Just to finish up this question, how many times have you seen somebody you helped in your professional life, and they've come up to you and gave you a hug?
You know, it's funny you say that because it's not only hard times bring people together through
Without
history.
doubt.
Whenever you have hard times, it makes the best in people come forward. There are times that people will even walk up to me that 20 years ago, that I may not even remember. And they come up to me and say, I remember the time that you came to our house and we had a flood and we didn't know what to do. You came in here, you brought the pumps in, you helped us out. You may not remember it because you do it so much, but they'll remember it for the rest of their lives. And that's the difference.
We don't. I always say when you show up to a call, you're one person, but the people that are at the call, there could be 10 people in the house.
Yes.
You know, but you're one person. That's the face that they remember. That's the face that they assimilate to that incident. You know, I had a guy come up to me and say, you know, he recognized me and he said, I remember. He goes, I just want to thank you for what you did for my son. He goes, do you remember me? I had no idea who the guy was. You know?
Exactly.
But I'm like, oh, yeah. How's your son doing? He goes, you turned my son's life around.
Right.
No idea what I did.
What people
I have no clue.
What people forget is that we're the face that make people feel safe.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's all people want to do is they want to feel safe.
Yeah.
Especially in a time of despair.
Well, it's a bunch of hard
Exactly.
people. It's a bunch of hard people, and
You
it's hard people.
don't call 911 just to say hi.
No.
You call 911 because you're in despair. You need something. You need help. You're the first one that shows up. You know, and that's a face they remember.
Right. And listen, even as a civilian calling the police or calling the fire department or calling the ambulance as a young kid, when I saw them show up, it made me feel relaxed, confident, and quite frankly, it made me feel like I'm going to be okay now. And that's what we have to realize we bring to the public when we show up.
At least you had somebody to call. You imagine people, you know, thousands of years ago, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
What do you do?
But
What do you do?
could you imagine calling 911 and this face shows up?
Oh my gosh.
Here we go again.
Well, before we get away, before we get off track, I want to thank Lexi. That was a great question. Keep sending your questions in, and we will try to get them on the air before we get too much of the Mike DePalma.
Let's get off this case here.
Mike Turner.
Yes, sir.
Hoboken Mike T. As I first came to know you, I remember you were brought to my attention by Mr. DePalma over here, saying, "Hey, this guy's on Survivor."
Survivor.
Survivor. It's actually Survivor. Well, there is an R at the end.
Listen, by the end of like the next 15, they're gonna start talking exactly like that. Like,
First of
okay,
all,
no
yeah.
problem.
I think you guys kind of like the way we talk.
keep
Yeah, they really
wanna
do,
have some
Mike. They
quality.
Keep the Hoboken
Really, they
dictionary
really
right
do.
here.
It is amusing.
Use guys are gonna like us.
It is amusing. It is absolutely amusing. But some of the greatest people in the world that I've ever met are from Hoboken, Mike included in this one.
Stewie.
Stewie, great man.
Butchie,
Great people. Great people.
Benny Love, those are two new guys
Yep.
that I just met, and they're wonderful people. They bring you in, they welcome you with open arms. So why don't you give our audience a little bit about who Mike Turner is?
To be honest with you, I don't think I'm anything that special. I'm just a kid that, was born in Hoboken's housing projects, grew up down there. To us, being rich was to become a fireman or cop. That's what we thought our ceiling was. It was a very poor town at the time, and I grew up in the projects. We didn't have a lot, but we were happy. And just
You were happy with what you had.
and maybe because that's all we thought there was.
Exactly. Yeah.
So we didn't know any better. And again, if I saw a police officer or I saw a fireman, I was like, holy shit, man, that's what I want to achieve, because I thought that was the ceiling at the time.
Back in the day when they used to wear the wool coats,
Yes.
and stop in the bars
Yes.
for a little nip to keep them warm.
Yes.
There was an old Hoboken cop I used to go to the gym with, and he was one of the last ones apparently to wear those, and he goes, they were the best things in the world. You could stay warm forever. But that job, fireman is the job that most police officers want, and when about year 7, 8 inside the police department, how did you come about being a fireman?
Quite frankly, I wasn't a great student. You don't have, like it is now, I didn't have helicopter parents that always watched what I was doing. I pretty much ran the streets, did what I
Our
wanted.
parents worked all the time.
Yeah, so it was a different,
So
it was
you
a
didn't have a
different
parent
world.
over you all the time.
College was it was a luxury as opposed to a necessity that it is now. And I wasn't a good student. I didn't really care to go to college. I tried it for half a semester, failed out, and I said I want to do something that's worthwhile. I didn't want to load trucks, quite frankly. I didn't want to be a hard laborer my whole life. And I have a friend, John O'Brien, who wound up being my coworker and then my captain and then my battalion chief, had made me aware of the fireman's test that was coming. I was like, first, like, the fireman's test, me? How could I become a fireman? I'm a kid from the projects. That's way beyond what I thought my realm would be. However, he coached me through it. I took the test when I was young, and it's the job where you feel like you're helping people. You still feel like you're needed. It's appreciated. And quite frankly, it's a job where when the bell goes off, you feel like
It's a sense of purpose.
right. And if you're an athlete, everybody wants the ball with a minute left to go in the game to put the ball in the end zone. And with the fire department, when that bell went off, that's kind of how you felt. They give me the ball, I got to score here, and that was the difference with saving somebody's life.
When a bell goes off, that's the ball being snapped.
Exactly.
And you're ready to run.
And that adrenaline is the same adrenaline that I felt playing football.
I often wondered that. I often wonder when that bell goes off, is it the same feeling that when the crack of the radio happened for us?
Yeah.
That same
adrenaline rush.
rush, that same we got to go.
You slide down the pole and all that stuff like
Yeah.
firemen do.
We used to slide down the pole, and too many guys got hurt, so they cut that out. Listen, firemen, we ain't the brightest tools, the sharpest tools in the shed either.
Somebody always fucks up.
You know, like,
Somebody always fucks up our game.
he brought up a good point. Like, we also felt safe. We worked in the same town. We responded to majority of the calls together. So when these guys showed up, we felt safe. It was a vice versa thing. It's a mutual thing.
That's a good point.
And you mentioned certain names around Hoboken. It's Mike Turner. It's Mike DePalma. It's Stewie Chiricella. It's Benny Love.
Nicky Burke.
Nicky Burke.
Burke.
That's another one.
Mike knows Nicky Burke.
Of
course.
You all know each other. I swear you're all related.
Of course we know each
You
other.
know what? And we always, no matter what it was, we always came together for this, or for that, those,
This,
yeah.
You're,
No, but it was
Mike, your enunciation is so awesome. I'm so proud of you.
Thanks. I feel good tonight.
See the
Thank you.
twinkle in his eye?
Because he's performing in front of Lexi. That's what he's doing.
Stop it.
He turns it on.
Listen, he's making Hoboken proud right now.
No,
He's
you know what?
Survivor series
Yeah.
season
He's
60.
surviving
Survivor Hoboken.
I'm a survivor suffering podcast every week. What the?
No, but Mike joins us for color commentary. I think is the
color,
proper word. He's the color commentator. But that job, you had to see a lot of stuff in 20. How many years? 27.
27 and a half years.
And you got on young, too, right?
Yeah, I got on. I was just about turning 19 years old. I was smart enough to say, my friends were hanging out in the corner. I'm saying, like, man, I really don't want to work a regular job. I wanted more.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, I didn't know how to be a lawyer or to me, like, again, being a fireman was.
It's funny, too, because you said you didn't want to work a regular job. Being a fireman and being in law enforcement is a regular job. But to us who loved it, it wasn't a regular job.
46 years old. No, when did you retire? 46.
47. I just turned 47.
You just turned 47 now.
Yeah.
All right, you're the same age. And what year did you?
No, he didn't just turn 47 now. He said before he's 59.
Yeah, I'm 59.
Oh,
And according to the guys on the island, like
I'm
my
not
man
the-
Romeo,
I'm not the oldest
I'm
guy in the room.
117.
I'm sorry. This podcast is over.
Yes.
I only bring people who are younger than Mike. I can't do
This
it.
is the first.
He did say you were like 100 years old.
And he's bald, too. So
I'm
he's got
bald. I'm old.
No, wait.
I'm crickety.
Hold on. Bob Gibson was older than you.
Yes, he was.
Bob Gibson was
By a year or two.
He's
That's it?
He's a World War II vet who was at D-Day in the Battle of the
Oh, my
Bulge.
God. And he was
he's
barely
99.
older than you?
He's 99.
Just a little bit older than me.
Yeah, he's 99. So yeah, I get a little bit for that one. But you have this story career. What do you think was the worst call in your mind that you went on?
It's hard to say. I mean, there was some calls where we lost people. Always when you lose somebody, that's the one you say, could I have gotten there quicker? Could I have gotten to the apartment quicker? Could I have done something different to make a difference in whether this person made it or didn't make it?
Coulda, woulda, shoulda.
Coulda, woulda, shoulda. And sometimes you ask those questions. We actually had a medical call, and we couldn't find where the person was. And so we're trying to figure it out. And I was a rescue captain at the time, and we were doing medical, and we had the ambulance there, and we're trying to figure it out. The guy called. He was having trouble breathing. We couldn't figure it out. We finally realized he had called from a rear apartment, basement, the old Hoboken. Really wasn't a legal apartment. And we finally have the dispatcher call back, and we hear the ringing, like a distant ring, and we follow the ring, and we find it in there. And by the time we got there and forced entry, he was gone. That was one of the worst, because I'm saying, why didn't I think of this first? Why didn't I
One
think of that
step
first?
away.
Yeah, and so that was, and that's not even a fire call. That was a medical call, but that's one of the worst how I felt that bothered me for a while. The fire calls, you lose people. Sometimes it's not even your fault. They're gone before you get there. But you still always wonder, could I have taken a faster route? Could I have gotten in quicker? If I had gone through this door, that door, if I had ventilated quicker, could we have gotten guys in there with with a line to put it out?
That Monday morning quarterbacking will
Always.
kill you.
And especially when you lose a life, because that's permanent, right?
You know what? I mean, in law enforcement, one of my worst calls was a fire call. We had a house fire, and I knew there was an elderly lady in the house. And I crawled into the house, and
Blue Canary.
I felt the leg of the kitchen table, and the fire. The smoke just got too much, and I turned around, backed out. They found the lady right under the table. Right. I was within a foot
Isn't
away
that
from
crazy?
the lady.
I give you
And
guys
within a
much
foot
respect. I
away.
mean, they put us. Remember the fire? They put us in there. I'm like, oh my
No,
goodness!
that's
I was like, how do you guys go?
And that's
through
not
that?
real smoke.
No,
I mean,
was like,
how many times
damn,
have you eaten smoke before?
A lot.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's no joke.
Your lungs just freeze.
Yeah, it's a crazy feeling. You go in there and you feel like you're being suffocated. But listen, by the same token, you guys are walking into some situations, domestics, where you don't know what's going to happen. We at least know it's a fire.
Yeah.
You guys have no idea what you're going to face when you turn every corner.
Yeah, that's
to me,
true.
that's much scarier.
But there's a difference, and I'm going to explain to a fireman what the difference is. We have a fighting chance against a fire. You can throw as many punches as you want, and that's why I give firemen all the respect in the world,
me
because
too,
you
me too.
you can't punch a fire back.
True.
So it's a force of nature that you're fighting.
True. And but for the most part, we're educated and we know the science of it, so that does help us. So kind of that gives us a puncher's chance. However, you're right. But the same thing when you listen, when the shit hits the fan, no matter whether you're a cop or a fireman.
Oh yeah.
And it goes so fast. So that people don't realize things happen so quickly that you can't react in a way that maybe sometimes is the right way. And unfortunately, we're always held accountable. So
But after a critical call such as that, and this is something of great interest to me, you go back to the firehouse. You're sitting around the table, whether it's chow time or whatever it may be. What's the mood in the firehouse, and how do you deal with whatever it is that you just saw?
it depends. There are times that we go back to the firehouse, and if we freaking made a good save, or we helped, deliver a baby, or we feel like we brought somebody back on a CPO call, we're ecstatic. We're like, fuck, can you believe we just did, man? It's unbelievable. Like, we feel like we're fucking Superman. But then there's times we'll come back where, where we lost somebody, and you're sitting there and you don't even talk. You don't talk. And fortunately now, in this day and age, we have avenues where we can go to help alleviate.
Yeah.
I feel sorry for the older crowd, the older guys, the guys who were on before me, that, the way they made it better is they went to the bar and they drank.
They had to eat their
Right,
feelings.
they had their liquid medicine, and
Yep.
and that's not a healthy way. We're at least afforded now the opportunity to go in avenues that are much more healthier. But it's quite frankly, it's depressing when you go back there and you think maybe you had a shot and there was nothing you could do.
Well, you Monday morning quarterback yourself the whole time too. You go back. I mean, God forbid you lose someone and you just sit there and. I mean, I know, fireman, you probably laid in your bed and said this, but
We don't have beds.
yeah, I know. Okay, you laid
Racks.
you laid
We racks.
you laid in your cot and said, could I have done this? Should
Well,
I
we
have
all
done that?
we all at one point laid in our own cot, which was your police seat with your ass just moved
course.
forward, just sleep.
But you know what? This all relates back to like the question, surviving. It's not an easy thing. Our careers, whether and we were just talking about dispatches. That's just as impactful.
Well, dispatch, I think it's tougher
It's not even
because dispatch, you're powerless.
You're exactly. I was
True,
just going to
but-
say that
True.
you're powerless. You don't even see the scene when you're a cop or you're a fireman. You see the scene. You know what's going on. A dispatcher is sitting behind a microphone.